Shannon Havard here, a longtime friend.
Yeah.
20 years
Wow.
we've known each other back in the cable TV days.
Telecommunications.
Exactly.
Yes.
Shannon Havard is the Senior Vice President of Sales for Metro Regions for
Yeah.
Jim Pattison Broadcast Group.
That's right.
It's a lot. It's a word salad.
It's long.
And your team sells into the metro markets in Western Canada.
That's right.
So for those of you who are going, this is supposed to be kind of around sales or maybe tech, where does radio fit in here? Radio in just Canada was a $1.5 million market, billion dollar
Yeah.
market last year. So obviously still very relevant. I'm sure hyper competitive. And my first question is really with all of these social channels, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, probably missing one. There's probably one being built right now.
Exactly. Yes.
Going
As
ready
we
to go
speak.
viral.
Yeah.
How's your team adapted in terms of using that as a sales tool, but also maybe integrating it into the sales offerings?
Well, I think the main thing is to understand for all of us at all levels, this can be very overwhelming. And there's a little bit of fatigue even when you're having conversations with customers around it. And our job is to make it more simple. I think the main thing is we start at it from perspective that everybody is a business consultant. So their main goal is to go in and understand the pain points, what makes people shriek in the middle of the night, all those cliches,
right.
And then be able to come back with a solution or some ideas on an integrated solution, because we just bought a digital advertising agency, but even consult on things that we aren't able to offer.
Sure.
People just want to have a trusted source that really took the time to understand their business and give them advice.
Yeah, it's interesting. We were talking about that earlier, and you like that analogy of the one throat to choke.
Yes, I did.
People really want to build
Yeah.
trust with someone, and it's interesting because in my world, we're often categorized as solution salespeople, and the relationships we have to build with our clients is that trust, and they come to us with all their problems, and we can maybe solve 1, 2, 3, and 4, but 5 and 6 we have to maybe even point them to a competitor or someone else, but that is a level of trust that you build up. So kind of dovetailing on that, if you look at when you're bringing in new salespeople into the organization, how much of the traits or characteristics, I guess, that you're looking for, would you say any of that's changed in your career?
No. And I think, I spent quite a bit of time also operationally at senior levels too. I think the main thing is you're looking for somebody who has a work ethic, who is coachable. And in our case, you do need to have business acumen because our world is changing dynamically all the time.
Yeah.
Is it easy to test for that in the recruitment process? Absolutely not, but we've added some things and layers to it that help us understand the person better, so we know where they'll be starting if we do agree to work with them, and how long it'll take them to make them super successful.
That's interesting. So if you're looking at getting into a sales career and you don't have, and there's no real school of sales.
No, there is a school of rock though.
There is, yeah, and I'd like to join it. And you said it earlier, like sales is often accidental, but for folks that are looking at maybe getting into sales or want to transition into it, would you say there's certain things that they really need to work on or highlight when they're pursuing those opportunities?
Yeah, I mean, I think my experience has been that it is accidental, and people don't come out of university and say, hey, I took this BCom degree so that I could go directly into sales. People find their way to it because they have, I think, a certain discipline. They're interested in people. When I'm recruiting, I really do dig into gaps in their resume. Did they take a risk on something? Have they traveled?
Yeah.
How keenly interested are they authentically in other people? Because the more interested you are in other people, the more interesting you are as a person and a consultant. And if you don't have that appetite, you're not going to be successful. Yeah,
that's interesting. And I wouldn't say it contradicts, but my last question is really around, I have a young daughter, she's a chatterbox, so I make the assumption, perfect fit for sales, extrovert. But, you've mentioned it, you would label yourself an introvert. I've worked with and for some excellent sales leaders, salespeople that are introverts. But what advice would you give? I guess 2 questions. To a young girl, and would you say look at sales or just follow these interests? And would that advice be any different for my son?
There will be an element for young women or young girls that will be different than young men. I mean, I think it's always hard for women and people from diverse backgrounds to find their voice. So this is what I'm spending quite a bit of time on. The people that I'm mentoring today is, they're like, well, you are so confident and you can walk into a room and
Right.
have a conversation with somebody and seem genuinely interested in them. But I wasn't necessarily like that when I had purple hair and black leather skirts and I was running a television operation.
Right.
Those people are crazy to put me in charge of that. But
Right.
anyway, I just think finding a mentor, somebody that really believes in you, particularly for women, and finding your voice, because it's women and people from diverse backgrounds. It's not that easy, and it's still not that easy, which is really interesting. For young men, everybody still has to work hard. You have to be educated now. And I think you have to be open to interesting and intriguing paths that may lead you client-facing. And that, I think the client-facing roles are not just sales roles anymore. There's science to it. But if you're not interested in people and helping people solve their business problems, this is not going to work for you.
Yeah, that's really interesting, and I think so again, thanks for making the time today. And I think what I'll probably find as I talk to other business leaders, sales leaders throughout these interviews is probably, there'll probably be more similarities than there isn't around a lot of the traits people are looking for. It doesn't matter if you're selling radio broadcast, if you're selling a tech solution. Ultimately, you're having to solve a problem for someone and get to know what their problems are.
Yeah, and you can't fake it because
100%.
people will smell that immediately.
Yeah, can't disagree
Have
with
to
that.
be authentic.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.